Okay, back to stealing. Okay.
Or not stealing.
Or not stealing, yeah. Okay, so we learned you're not allowed to buy objects from a ganav because then you're basically supporting him because then he's going to steal more. What happened though if your intention is to give it back to the person that was stolen from? You know, you go to the ganav, to the thief, and you buy it back because you want to give it back to the owner and then he'll give you money, you know, that's what you're paying back. So then you could do it if you know the owner wouldn't be able to get it any other way. If the owner can get it any other way, don't buy it. Let the owner get it back from the ganav by itself.
Can you steal it from the ganav to give it back to its rightful owner?
No. You can't steal from the rich to give to the poor.
No. You know it's stolen.
No, one second. I don't know where people make this massive mistake. When the Gemara says, Hagainef min haganev potter, if somebody steals from a ganef, they're potter, it doesn't mean they're potter, they're freed. They don't have to pay kefil, they don't pay double. When somebody steals something, not in broad daylight, a ganef has to pay kefil, double. If somebody steals from a thief, he doesn't pay the thief double. But you have to give back what you stole even from a thief. You can't just steal something from the thief.
If you lose your phone and you put an ad $500 for anybody who finds my phone,
right?
And somebody comes and gives you your phone, you grab it and he says, well, "I'm not going to give you your money. You stole it from me." Is that allowed?
The question was like this: if you lose your phone, or somebody borrowed it indefinitely. People don't steal; they just borrow indefinitely. So somebody stole. You lost your phone. You put an ad in the newspaper. Reward $500. It's a lot of money for a phone, but anyway, $500 reward. Then the guy comes back with the phone, and you grab away the phone from him, and then you tell him, "I'm not giving you back the money because you stole it from me." First of all, that's only halachically correct to do. I'm serious. If you know that for sure the person stole it.
By the way, this happened and they say you said it's okay not to pay. I'm just letting you know. Okay. But I think it's...
Anything said I'm making a public statement. When I speak by the shluchim convention, I say the same thing. I start off by saying anything said in my name is not true. That's it. Okay? If you know for sure that the person stole the phone, yes, then you're allowed to do that. Why? Because there's a din in the Gemara, Avid inish dine lenafshi. A person could take the law into his own hands, if to grab it away from the person that stole it, that's allowed. But if you can't prove that he stole it, you assume maybe he stole it, maybe he lost it, and somebody found it, and they're giving it back to you. So then you wouldn't be allowed to do that. It's only if you know for sure that the person stole it from you, can you grab it back without giving the money. But until you can prove that, or 100% sure it's between you and Hashem, you have to give him the reward, because that's what you promised him. Now, I don't know what I said, or whatever. I don't remember whatever. Now, okay. So now there's another din like this. What happens? Okay, you're not allowed to benefit from stolen objects. If you know something is stolen, you're not allowed to benefit, even a slight benefit. For instance, normally there's a rule, you can't steal land. The Gemara says, Karka ein exelis. Because land, where it is. But there's a technical way you can steal land. You come into the guy's house, you throw him out, and you take over the house. Okay? So now the house is stolen. I mean, it still belongs to the original owner, but now it's under a ganef. It's stolen property. So if it's pouring outside, you're not allowed to go into the house to get protected from the rain because you're benefiting from stolen house. Or to walk in the field. The case over here is to go into a house which is stolen for the sun or because of the rain, or to even walk through you want to take a shortcut through a field, but you know the field is stolen, you're not allowed to walk through it. Because that's all benefiting from something which the Torah forbids, and it's not allowed. So you can't benefit for anything which is considered stolen goods. Not, again, that's only if you know that it's stolen. I mean, like they say, how can you buy something in the store? Maybe it was stolen. Maybe everything is stolen. So, but Marshall, there's a din though. What happens if a guy's a known thief and everything he owns is from robbery? For instance, the case over here, Mishu Gazlam Mefursam. He knows, he has nothing else but stealing. That's all he does for a living. He steals.
Frauds people.
Ganev, Gazlan, doesn't matter. Ganev does it quietly, Gazlan does it openly. So, and all his money is stolen, considered stolen. You're not allowed to benefit from it. Not only that, a poor man cannot even take tzedakah from him. Because we assume, like the Gemara in Bava Kama gives a lot of examples. For instance, the Gemara says over there, most shepherds, a regular shepherd was a thief. Why? Because he wouldn't hesitate to graze the flock in somebody else's pasture without permission. There was a difference between Avram's shepherds and Lot's shepherds, right? In the story in Lech Lecha, that Lot shepherds would just let them graze anywhere, even though they were stealing grass and so on. So then you wouldn't be allowed, you're not allowed to even take tzedakah, stam reya ganef, what the Gemara says. Stam, because that's what they used to do. They were considered thieves. Everything they own is thieves.
And the gambler can't give tzedakah?
Huh?
The gambler cannot give tzedakah?
Now, okay. So now the question is, this is a very interesting question, by the way. Officially, money, let's say that a Jew made on Shabbat, on Shabbos, when he's not allowed to work, but he made money on Shabbos. Or a guy whose profession is gambling, okay, which he's not allowed to do. It's called stealing. So then, the question is, can you, and he gives a donation to tzedakah or something, or he sells you something, are you allowed to do it? So the answer to that question is yes. Why yes? Because he has other money too. It's not only, all his income is not only from gambling. He probably has a side job somewhere that he makes in other money or things like this. A guy works in Shabbos, it doesn't mean all the money he makes is in Shabbos. He makes money Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So who said you're taking the money from Shabbos? But if, let's say, you know for sure, a Jew works on Shabbos, and that has nothing to do with stealing, it's a different thing. But a guy works in Shabbos, Saturday night he comes over to you and he says, hey, this is the money I made today. I'm going to give it to tzedakah. You're not allowed to take it.
Why is gambling considered stealing?
If it's your profession, you're not allowed.
So if you go to Vegas and win money, we cannot give you the 10%.
No. I said if that's your profession.
Why does it differ if it's a profession?
Because that means that's all the person is doing with himself.
But why is it stealing in the first place?
Because it's called asmachta. Nobody goes to gamble to lose. They think they're going to win.
Been to Vegas lately. They wouldn't be building
I
hotels all the time.
haven't been, by the way.
Lottery is considered gambling, no?
Huh?
A lottery.
No. If you want to ask questions, why is it the stock market gambling? The stock market might also be gambling. Stock market, by the way, is more gambling than the lottery. Lottery, you know you're not going to win. You're not gambling. What?
Have you refused cases, refused donations?
I never refuse donations. I don't plan to. No, because the guy, if a guy would work on Shabbos, tell you the truth, honestly, if a guy worked on Shabbos and he came to me right after Shabbos and said, this is the money I made today, I would not take it. You're not allowed to take it. I wouldn't take it. You don't get rich. Let me tell you something, a rule. The money that we are going to have is what Hashem wants us to have. Money that we get illegally, we're going to lose it in a different way. Okay? Either doctor bills or a leaky roof or who knows what. Okay? we're not going to make 1 more cent more than what Hashem wants us to have, or 1 cent less than what Hashem wants us to have. We have to make a vessel, a kosher vessel. So people think I'm going to cheat, I'm going to gouge, I'm going to make money. Maybe temporarily they have the money, but in the long term they will not have that money, because they're not destined to have anything more than what Hashem gave, and not a cent less than what Hashem gave. That's fundamental Jewish belief, by the way. Fundamental Jewish belief.
What about donations given by people who work on Shabbat?
I said, why, if a guy works in Shabbat, yeah, and he gives me, I'm taking the money he got from Sunday or Monday. Maybe the donation I'm getting is from his Monday or Tuesday money. How do I know I'm getting the donation? Why do I have to think that I'm getting he's giving me the apidim, by the way, it's called bereid or whatever. I can assume the money came from during the week, especially, by the way, when the week is 6 days and Shabbos is 1 day. So now the question, where is this money coming from? From the minority of Shabbos or from the majority of the week? So halachically, you assume it came from the majority of the week.
In secular law, they call it fungibility.
It's not the concept of batal b'shishim. Batal b'shishim when things are actually mixed together. It's similar to that. It's similar to that. The concept is similar, but it's a little bit different. It's a little bit different.
In secular law, they call it fungibility of cash.
Whatever that means. Okay, that clock is, okay. Okay, next. This is another interesting din. What happens, it's called the Gemara, it's a famous mission, Schaufelei Kelev Bebeis Umen, or Bebeis HaMishta. You go to a bris, okay, or you go to shul, Shabbos. Everybody hangs their coats in the back, in the coat hanger. Then you come after davening, you realize somebody took your coat and left you their coat. Now usually it works that your coat was better than theirs. That's why they accidentally took your coat instead of taking their own. This is the reality of it. I've never seen a guy say, oh my gosh, they took my coat but they left me a better coat. That doesn't usually work. So now the question is, in the Gemara there's an interesting thing. That in this, I'm telling what the halacha is in the Gemara, because poskim right nowadays it might be a little different. But the pearl, if somebody by mistake took my shoes, took my jacket, took my hat, whatever, Al Pi Din, I'm not allowed to take his jacket. It's not mine, it's still his. He has mine, that's a separate issue. But I'm stealing his jacket by taking it. So halacha, you have to leave his jacket there and you try to find your jacket. So there's an Aruch HaShulchan that says, B'zman hazeh, where people know it happens, the minig is that they'll use the other guy's coat until they find out who the owner is and exchange it. But Shulchan Aruch itself says that you're not allowed, it's a Gemara, you're not allowed to do it. The Gemara says, again, everybody brings it down. What?
If the Gemara already says it a certain way, how can it then be changed?
No, because there's a change in the reality. Not in the halacha, the law doesn't change. The reality is, years ago, people minded when somebody would be wearing my coat. So they're right nowadays, like he says, they're not makbid, they're not particular about it, they don't care so much. You take my coat, I take your coat. But by the way, if it's a very expensive coat, there might be a problem, Tucker. And then you have to find out if you're lucky, find out who took the coat and where and there. But it's not such a simple din, by the way. The minig today, the poskim are showing down that they're much more lenient today than it was actually in time of the Gemara. But the Gemara says clearly, if your cane changed, were exchanged, you're not allowed to take it until you get back yours. Adina Chavetman Sitka Yagul Teira Viyadir. Okay, last thing we're learning yesterday is if somebody's garments are exchanged, if you're allowed to take them or not. In Gemara it says you can't, Shulchan Aruch says you can't, but later poskim write that nowadays it's customary they do it because we assume that everybody gave up and they said, okay, you know what, you keep mine, I'll keep yours, and so on. Okay, now another thing is like this. You're not allowed to benefit from anything of your friend without him knowing about it. Unless, like we learned, that something cheap, like a paper clip or a pen, even that it says, we learned to Midas Chassidus, it's appropriate not to do it. But you can't come into somebody's house, even though you know for sure they're not going to mind. Nevertheless, it's forbidden. So therefore, he gives an example, in those days. The example was a guy goes into an orchard of his friend, and he says, it's my friend's orchard. He's not going to mind if I take an apple and eat it. You're not allowed to take it without the owner knowing it, even though he's your best friend, and there's no question that the owner wouldn't mind you taking it. Bottom line is, when you're taking it, he doesn't know about it, and therefore it's called stealing.
Each time you have to get permission, or if he tells you help yourself when you get it?
No, he says, help yourself, then it's not an issue. But in fact, Alter Rebbe, Kitzer brings on an expression of Alter Rebbe that you have to warn people about that because a lot of people make a mistake with this din. They think, it's my friend, I can just go in and take whatever I want. So in Shulchan Aruch it says you're not allowed to. Now obviously if the guy says, be my guest, or if somebody, let's say, is a guest in somebody's house, this happens often, yeah? You stay by somebody for Shabbos, and they're still sleeping, and you're going to take a cup of coffee, let's say, So over there it says you're allowed to because you're a guest. They assume that you're going to, assumption is that they're going to not mind at all if you take a cup of coffee. And that's what a guest is all about. You're going to eat in their house. So then it's not an issue. But to go into somebody's house, even a friend, and some poskim want to say like family is different. You go into a parent's house or, things like that. If you go into your father-in-law's house, then it's a mitzvah. Because I remember in Kollel we used to say this. There's a pasuk in the curses. It says, "V'yachalta es shlal oivecha." You will eat the spoils of your enemy. So in Kollel used to say that pasuk refers to the father-in-laws. It's a mitzvah. Terrible. But that's what the guys used to say. By the way, the ones that used to say it were the ones that got along with their in-laws. The guys that didn't get along with their in-laws wouldn't say that. Okay, now the question is like this. What happens if somebody comes to your house? Can a kid, let's say, a poor man comes to the door, can he give him a piece of bread to eat? In those days it was more food, they would come to eat food. Let's say a member of the household, not the father, the wife, the kids, whoever it is. A guy comes to the door and asks, for a little tzedakah or whatever it is, because you're allowed to do that, because that's the minhag, what people do. So all you're doing is the minhag that the father would have done anyway. And but the balim, the owners know about it, and it's okay. Therefore, it says like this, and there's a whole controversy in halacha, in contemporary halacha, by the way. In Shulchan Aruch it says you're allowed to take a little bit of tzedakah from women. Because we assume the husband doesn't mind that the wife is giving away a little bit of money. Now today it's a whole different din, because in halachic law, not secular law, in halachic law, whatever the wife owns belongs to the husband. So therefore, when she's giving anything away, it's his money. And if, in fact, it says in halacha that if a woman is going to give you a lot of money from the husband's money, we can assume it's stolen money. Or like we learned the other day, that if a guy's selling goods like this, then you assume it's stolen. So in Shulchan Aruch it says you're allowed to take small amounts of tzedakah from women because we assume the husband doesn't mind that. But today it's a different story, poskim right. Number one, if you have community property, let's say California, which has community property, a bunch of other states do, so halachically everything is 50-50. Then if a woman works,
What?
huh?
In California community property, then what?
Whatever he owns is 50% hers.
Right.
And then you have, a lot of women work. They have their own money, so to speak. So then, in that case, then you would be allowed to take, more money from them because then they have their own money. Okay, and by the way, another din is about this, the Rebbe brings down, that what happens if a woman is giving away a lot of tzedakah, but she says, my husband knows about it. My husband knows about it, he doesn't mind. So then you don't assume she's lying. Then you could take whatever amount it is. In fact, we mentioned when we're learning the laws of tzedakah, there's a famous story that I mentioned many times, but it's a beautiful story. There was once a woman who was giving away a lot of tzedakah. And the husband was upset. She was giving away too much money. So he said to his wife, I'm taking you to a din Torah. But the problem was, the Rav of the city was her father. So she was the daughter of the Rav of the city. And he takes his wife to his father-in-law for a din Torah. So the father-in-law says, what's the story? So the woman says, the husband says, she's taking too much money from me. And so he turns to his daughter and says, no, what do you say? She says like this. In the Ksubah it says that the husband has to support his wife, and if she gets sick, he has to heal her. I mean, it doesn't say in the Ksubah, it's what's called the Tanai Ksubah. Those are the unwritten laws of the Ksubah. That he has to feed her, and if she gets sick, he has to heal her. So she said to him, when a poor man comes to the door and asks me for money, it makes me sick. I just can't take it that they're poor. And the only way I get healed is when I give him some food or some money. So therefore, according to the Ksubah, he has to allow me to do it. And her father said she was right. So that's, the story is what it is. Okay, now there's another interesting din that could be practical, especially in California where we have fruit trees. What happens if there's a fruit tree in somebody's backyard and the branches are going out into the street? So now the shaila is somebody allowed to come, not on the street part, not in the backyard part, in the street part because it's over the street. Is he allowed to come and rip off a fruit and eat it without permission, or is that called stealing? So halacha says like this. If the fruits, when they fall off, become despicable, they become ruined, so then we assume that the owner knows the fruits fall off. That's what happens. If you don't pick them, they're going to fall off. And they're going to be disgusting. So therefore, the owner automatically gives up hope from them. If the owner gives up hope from them, then we have an assumption that they're free for all, they're hefker, and therefore a person would be allowed to take them. What happens though, if it's fruits that when they fall off the tree don't become disgusting? And then, what usually used to happen, the owner would go into the street and pick up the fruits from his own tree that fell, so then you wouldn't be allowed to. What?
I thought that the halacha says, though, that for the fruits that are hanging over the borderline of your fence, and for those that fall on their own, you're not allowed to pick them up.
No, that's in a field for the poor people. The sleket, chik, chapeya, those things.
Right, but if it's already
But this
yours,
is not for poor people. This is a guy's tree is protruding into the street, and there's fruits on the tree.
but if it's already, if it's going to fall, or if it has fallen, you're not allowed to collect them in the first place.
No, that's only in your own field, and you have to leave them for the poor person. Here's the talking a guy who's walking by his tree. You know, people do this, by the way. They rip off fruits, and so the question is, are they stealing or not? There's a lot of things people do that we learn to stealing. Huh?
Ripping off is not the same as picking up things.
No, so the question, that's all. Halacha says like this. If they're fruits that become disgusting when they fall off, so then l'chatchila, the owner gives a hope. Now, what happens if they don't become disgusting when they fall off, and most people are Jewish, that know the halacha, you can't pick it, so then it's forbidden. Or, another interesting halacha. Kids under bar mitzvah, let's say in the olden times, there was a lot of orphans under bar and bas mitzvah, right? The parents, people died young in those days. So what happens if you have a kid who owns a field, okay? A kid owns a field, and the fruits are falling off, so you're not allowed to take them. Why? Because a kid under bar mitzvah doesn't have the ability to do yish, giving up hope, because he's lacking the mental maturity, not brilliance, but maturity, to be able to yish. And mechila doesn't help. Mechila, a cotton can't be meichel. A cotton can't forgive a debt to forgive. What?
Your next door neighbor has trees that are leaning into your backyard and,
No.
leaving dirt, whatever, you tell your neighbor, listen, it's your obligation to have your gardener cut off those overhangs. He doesn't listen, then give you the right to cut it off yourself.
That has nothing to do with stealing.
You're damaging his.
You have to find out what the legal, I'm serious now. You have to find out what the legal law is. Whose responsibility is that to cut off the trees, the branches that you're hanging over my property? I believe, I'm not sure, but I believe civil law is that's your if they're going over into my yard, that owner is obligated to cut down the tree, the branches. Huh?
That's a law.
Yeah. I know I once had a neighbor, my lemon tree was going into this, he came over to me and said, hey, you got to cut down those branches. Yes, so then, and if they don't, then you have a right to do it. The question, who has to pay for it? Let's say, halachically, he has to cut down the branches, right? Because civil law says he has to cut down the branches. And he refuses to do it. Yeah? So now, let's say the gardener is going to charge you, for argument's sake, $100 to chop down the branches. So he doesn't want to do it, so you're going to do it. Right? Now, can you demand $100 from the person?
Yes.
Yeah, but in order to do that, you have to take him to Bais Din. I'm serious. You can't just, how are you going to charge him? No, how are you going to get the money?
The civil code will say you have to pay.
Yeah, civil code you have to pay. That's if you go to court. But the Jew's not allowed to go to court. So you have to take him to Bais Din, and if that's the law that he was supposed to cut it down and he's being mazik you, what? A Jew is allowed to go to court if it's with a non-Jew.
Thank you.
But you can't, no, you can't. A Jew can go to court with a guy, not with another Jew, that's all.
If a Jew is taken to court by another Jew, he goes to court.
If a Jew is taken by another Jew to court, he can go to court.
So only, the Jew is not allowed to take another Jew to court.
Correct.
Can you file a cross complaint?
What?
I'll give you a side. A Jew sues me, so I'm allowed to go defend myself. So am I allowed to file a cross complaint?
Once they take you to court, you can sue them for whatever they're worth. Because they had no permission to take you to court. Now, the question is, so I teach in the high school once a week. So the girls are asking me this week, so if that's the case, can a Jew be a lawyer? Because a lot of times they send up two Jews in court. So basically the lawyer, it's an interesting question, the lawyer is taking one Jew's taking another Jew to court, and the lawyer is the one involved in it.
So defense lawyer is not involved.
Defense lawyer, yeah, well, defense lawyer, yeah, but can you be not a defense lawyer?
Judge.
A plaintiff, huh?
Judge.
A judge you can be. You're not taking a Jew to court. You're making a ruling based on civil law. There were a lot of frum judges. In New York, there's a frum lady that's a frum judge.
The attorneys don't take anybody to court. The attorneys represent people in court.
Yeah, but certain times, if you're an agent in that, you have, like for instance, somebody that's taking interest from another Jew, yeah? So anybody that's involved, the broker, anybody that has anything to do with it is not allowed to. If one Jew is taking interest from another Jew, unless it's done in a permissible way. So same thing is we're taken to court. But in the halacha is a lawyer could be a lawyer. Because again, he's representing somebody, he's not actually taking the person to court. It's a little bit different.
He's allowed to advise his
One?
He's allowed to advise and encourage the plaintiff to do just that. It's fine.
You're allowed to. Yeah.
It's not,
They're in court anyway already.
many lawyers, they...
But much, if a Jew is asked, one second, I know we're going off topic. If a Jew is asked, let's say you're in court with somebody and you come to me and say, do me a favor, come to court to testify for me. Right? The Jew is not allowed to go to court to testify unless if he's subpoenaed. If he's subpoenaed, then you have no choice because otherwise you end up in jail, then you're allowed to go, halacha says. But you can't, I can't go to court to testify as a favor to you or to, let's say, to a husband and wife litigant, whatever it may be. Somebody says, please come to court to testify. You're not allowed to unless you're subpoenaed.
If I ask someone to go to Bais Din and they refuse, can I then take them to civil court?
Only if Bais Din gives you permission. Bais Din has to give you permission to take him to court. Rabbi